Hey guys, what's going on, friends and family? My name is Skylent, and I've been playing through a bunch of these different games as a service titles for years. I know that they can change, they can evolve, they can devolve, and I'm here to kind of sort all that out and kind of review it. But immediately, I'm going to do this video, and I'm going to admit that I have not gotten up to parity with endgame content that is now Dauntless. Like, I have not completed all the content of Dauntless. I am not a master. I don't have mastery of any one aspect of the game either. This is really more of a first impressions in a sense, because the game really is just now really fully launched. It might have technically been launched on PC for a bit. It even came out on PS4 a little bit ago, but now it's on, I believe, all the consoles it's going to be, unless they're going to be crazy and put it on mobile, which that would be amazing. But for the most part, it's now finally on all the different consoles. You can actually link your account if you haven't to your Epic Games account, because it is an Epic exclusive on PC, and then you can jam to Dauntless. And I'm kind of going to do a video describing who this game is for, why you should play it, and maybe some speed bumps that you have to jump over to kind of get into the game. But this is going to be more of a rant style, and I'm mostly going to be playing trailers in the background. But you can actually watch my streams over at twitch.tv/Skylent, and I have done multiple reviews of the game throughout its different parts of its life. This isn't quite a review exactly, but this is me kind of almost celebrating the game. It's had some ups and downs, but it keeps going, and it's doing some really cool things right now. Even though technically in the gameplay aspect, I don't know the full breadth of knowledge of, you know, every monster, every combo, the true complexity, or even if it's pay to win or not at the moment. I still need to analyze that and look forward to that video where I will go in depth on that. But what I can tell you right now is, looking at the game where it's been and how it's publishing itself, it's very exciting for someone who plays games as a service. Dauntless is a monster hunting style game, and there's a couple of worrying aspects to that style of game when it comes to making a free-to-play version of it. And there's a few on mobile devices where they insert gacha, or they insert more gacha, or they insert a little bit more gacha into it, or just straight up flat pay to win. That is a part of the gacha. This game doesn't do that as far as I've seen, but it does have a battle pass system, which is mostly cosmetic. At the very beginning of the game's launch, there were some items that debatably could have been, you know, if you were picky about it, considered pay to win maybe, or anyways, the game was a little overly grindy. The game just had some issues overall with the balance and the overall feeling of consumer friendliness. But at this moment, it seems like there's more and more stuff in the game that it's at least a little bit more complicated to realize that sort of feeling. The sensation overall is you jump in and it's like, okay, yeah, you know, there's stuff to do, which is a little confusing. So, you know, that's a little bit of a speed bump. You jump into a hub town and it's like, okay, I guess I'm gonna run back and forth and talk to a bunch of people and skip this quest text. But when you actually get into the hunt, it's kind of fun. It's kind of some good stuff. Before, originally, we didn't have any monsters, and a lot of the early monsters were really dumb, and you had to regrind them over and over again. And now with the larger breadth of monsters, which even when I played a couple of months ago, just felt really good. Now that I'm getting a little bit deeper into the game, I'm just now touching what used to be the end game. So now it's even more expanded, and it's constantly evolving, which is fantastic. It's also, if you're worried about the population on any of the platforms, as a free-to-play game, I don't think you really should too much. If this game was just on PC or just on PS4, maybe. But since there's this collective community kind of keeping the hype alive and, you know, keeping the forums and the YouTube content coming, it's, you know, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And I actually had Dauntless on free-to-play games no one's playing right now. But actually, I can't put it on that list anymore. So yeah, hopefully Spellbreak can follow suit whenever that launches as free-to-play as well. More games need to do what Dauntless does, where they expand and they actually push through, and they put it on multiple platforms as well. It's a really big factor, even if it's not cross-platform. Just having more people playing your game means more people are talking about it on the internet. So that's really big. But let's talk again, kind of recycle back to the plethoric content of the game, or the lack thereof. Originally, games like Path of Exile or Warframe, they're kind of designed to be regrinded, and so it kind of just was able to persist and exist. Dauntless is actually the same, but overall its complexity was really straightforward, especially because that game can just be stared down with Monster Hunter. It's a direct clone of Monster Hunter, but as the game started to progress with its new content, the monsters, and this is the unique aspect of why you would play Dauntless, even though you probably played Monster Hunter, or especially if you haven't actually, maybe if you're coming from MMOs or a few action RPGs, this is going to really excite you. But the monsters inside of Dauntless are more magic based. There's literally an Aether style lore and magic system in the game, so a lot of monsters have literal magic. Like it's really bullcrap, and it gets really ridiculous to the point where you have monsters going through portals, you have monsters that shoot lightning spikes and it bounces lightning balls between them, and you have to interact with that, and it's very reminiscent of some endgame content, dungeons, raids inside of MMOs. It's very magical and very gimmicky, but that's something that is very lightly touched on in some other Monster Hunters. Normally, it's more physical based, you know, swipes, tail sweep, stuff like that, and this game will start out like that, but that kind of is deceiving. The game gets really, really ridiculous and bombastic later on. I can say one speed bump is that while they are adding on new and new monsters all the time, and they are getting really ridiculous, you know, and you can play it right now and have a great time, and I'm sure now with the new content you can have a good amount of time. But the issue that I have as well is that the weapons they parallel Monster Hunter a good bit. Some of them are, you could say, are clones, but there's like 5 weapons. They just added fists, and there's guns, which is cool, but I definitely feel we need more new weapons and more varieties of armors. Though I do see, now that I logged in, I see that there is a larger variety of those items in terms of like the customization, but in terms of just the pure weapon skill sets, they are very hard set, and you will be kind of doing the same thing and doing the same moves in some instances just over and over and over, and sometimes you'll be regrinding the same monsters over and over, and that can be fun if you're coming from an action RPG background. But if you're somebody who plays MMOs and you have lots of, you know, lots of different rotations or abilities that you could throw into the rotation, and you're having all these very wildly different encounters, Dauntless is really going to just kind of tease you at the moment. But I want to say again that as a free-to-play games as a service, they have started ramping up seemingly production on new items, something that they know that they were lacking. If they can keep that up, then that'd be really fantastic. I also can recollect and say Warframe and Path of Exile and a number of other games, they started out kind of slow, but as they got more popular, more people started playing with them and ingesting into the free-to-play systems. And of course they got, you know, Epic was like, hey, we're gonna give you a bunch of money, come to Epic, we're gonna help you publish the game. So I think that now that they have this momentum, especially being on all platforms, that we're gonna see more and more updates that make the game more radical. So hopefully we do get some more ridiculous and fun weapons. I would love to see something that's extremely more magic-y, more mobile. I think the scythes are fun. In a way, you can do some really cool acrobatic stuff. It's not quite as anime as Insect Glaive, but it's, you know, it's kind of up there. My favorite is the hammer, actually, so far. So hammer's pretty fun. And I think on that note, this is where I'm going to kind of start to talk about specifically who or why you would want to play this game. It's probably for people who want to play more of that group content, dungeon content from MMOs, and you want a more sincere gameplay, but it's free to play. Monster Hunter has objectively amazing group play, and it's also really good solo, but Dauntless, I feel, especially because of its magical based enemies that are more inspired by MMO design, that it might be better for that, you know, 4-player co-op jump in and try to take down a boss kind of experience. Somebody can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. That's so far been my experience playing both games, again, lightly, not in-game in either titles. But really the point I want to make here is the weapons, talking about the weapons. So, you know, the interactions with all the different monsters, we can say that's all cool and dandy and fine, but the role that you play really matters to a lot of people, especially coming from MMOs, where in action RPG or maybe some titles like Guild Wars 2, it's normally just focused on damage and then how you do that damage. But in Monster Hunter, they have more explicit damage rolls than many other MMOs, most MMOs. Normally it's like ranged or melee, and maybe one's kind of tanky based, maybe one's more mobility based, but Monster Hunter has like a ridiculous assortment of styles of play that, you know, it's just really boggling that I don't see that more in other styles of, you know, like co-op based monster hunting games. So Dauntless kind of has that as well. I don't think to the degree of Monster Hunter, because we don't have ranged weapons whatsoever. And we don't really have like a support weapon. Kind of like we definitely need more weapons that fill out more roles or can do more different things. Again, that was a complaint I had. But what I want to say is, for you as a player, depending on who you are, finding the weapon that is really fun and enjoyable and deep and has a very interesting interaction with the monsters, in your opinion, is going to be paramount if you want to have fun. This is going to be the case for any game, right? If you play an MMO, you can't just pick a priest. If you hate healing, why would you pick a priest? It's not going to work out. You need to go play the rogue, right? So you got to try the different classes, or in this game, you got to try the different weapons. And then you got to really give the game a shot. There is a little bit of grind, kind of tutorial-ish, playing some of the more basic monsters to really get into the meat and taters of Dauntless. But once you do, then you're going to find a lot of fun. And probably the unique weapons inside of Dauntless, comparing to Monster Hunter as well and other MMOs, just other similar games, I have to say that the hammer is really fun. It's very different. Even like in MMOs, you normally don't have a slow hulking class. Even the slower classes, you still are button mashing, button spamming, or doing like just lots of movement, or there's some sort of spammy, sort of not true gameplay elements, in my opinion, to those games where it's just like, yeah, you're pressing buttons, but like inside of games like Dark Souls or Monster Hunter, every single action is incredibly impactful. So you're allowed to have more slow actions. So the hammer in this game is very combo oriented, and it has this. It's actually a hammer cannon. It's a cannon hammer. It's a like the shotgun hammer thing. It's weird, but it's awesome, and you can rocket jump with it and stuff. So there's some really cool mobility options with it, as well as still being slow and hulking. So unique in the space of Monster Hunter, and unique in the space of branching it out to online action RPG and online MMO games. But of course, you have to find your own flavor. I can only say what I like, and I normally like the things, because I play all different games, so I like the things that kind of compare and contrast with all those other games. But you might have a lot of fun also with the chain scythe, which is pretty fun. Very, you're just like hacking and slashing. It's very spectacle. It's literally, I think, inspired by games like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta, stuff like that. It's incredibly spectacle fighter. You're just whipping around, pulling yourself, doing backflips. It's crazy. But then a lot of the other weapons, which I haven't played with fists yet, and I haven't really played with guns, but looking from the gameplay, it looks like most of the other weapons mostly take direct inspiration from Monster Hunter. So you might want to steer away from those unless you haven't played Monster Hunter. But even then, those are really down to earth in a game that I think really what makes it special is that it's literally not down to earth. The whole game takes place on floating islands with monsters that have aether/floating abilities, and everything's flying around. Everything's really more anime than ever before, which isn't unfair. There actually are some literal anime Monster Hunter games out there, like God Eater, I don't know, there's Toykinen. Yeah, so there's a few of them out there, but I'm just saying, for one that's like a direct Monster Hunter clone, this one's pretty cartoon. It's very comic-y, and I think they should be a little bit more ridiculous. So that's just my opinion there. So, and I think that's who this game is really meant for, or for people who love the Monster Hunter formula so much that you just want more, and so you come to this game as well. So there's kind of I think a mixture of players that could kind of coexist in this style of game. But I do want to stress once again that I think this game really appeals to people who want to play MMO-ish or MMO action RPG style gameplay, but you don't want to play in the massive world. You want just the dungeon diving, you just want to fight bosses, and you want that sort of Souls-like or really Monster Hunter style combat. Well, that's Dauntless. Dauntless is the free-to-play game that has that. At the moment, it's running better than ever, at least that I've seen from the hub town, just optimization, running into the general monsters. I don't know how the more ridiculous monsters run later on with 4 players doing ridiculous stuff. I'm assuming it's just better than it has been, so that's good, because when it first launched, there was lots of crashes, server issues, and all that has been mostly alleviated from what I can tell. As well, again, a bigger push publishing, it's on all consoles. The game seems to be taking itself more seriously. There's a lot more holiday events, like they're really hitting those holiday events. They got a battle pass. Monetization is really, being pushed, which again is a good thing. It's like they're taking the game seriously to an extent. But I do want to end the video by saying that I'm a little worried about that monetization. It just seems kind of usual. It's like the battle pass is just like from Fortnite. A lot of the monetization early on also wasn't very inspired, and it's cosmetic monetization, which is good, but I don't know how you feel about that inside of a Monster Hunter style game where it's all about taking the parts of a monster and making your armor and kind of wearing it with pride a little bit. So yeah, tell me how you guys feel about that in the comments below. But if you want a game that seems generally very fair, that will give you a good fight, that's Dauntless. And debatably, to compare it to Monster Hunter directly, it might be a better cooperative experience to Monster Hunter in some ways and worse in others, but depending on the kind of player that you are. And again, I tried to express what kind of players would enjoy this game, though hopefully moving forward, we do get more expressive roles within the different weapons and gadgets that we can use in the game. Because in Monster Hunter, you can play like a very supportive ranged type of character. You have the hammer horn, which is straight like it buffs players and stuff like that. And then you have your insect glaive for the mounting. You have different people slashing and breaking different parts, which you also do have in Dauntless as well. So there is sort of a role mentality to an extent here as well. But in the end, though, I think the game is somewhat lacking, but that's also like, it's not something that is too big of an issue because this is a free game as a service, and Warframe is still lacking. Path of Exile still lacks certain things. All these games are always missing things, but they're also always adding on to things. And right here, I'm making this video kind of celebrating the fact that, well, I'm moving Dauntless from my sort of low tier of hope and hype, where I actually put it, you know, no one plays this game, no one's talking about this game. This game is like overshadowed, you know, it's by Monster Hunter, and otherwise you could just go play most other MMOs like Final Fantasy XIV or World of Warcraft if you want endgame dungeons. But now it's at a point where it's starting to carve out its own niche. It's actually gaining traction, and I think that generally it's running well. It seems fair, and I think it's a good game. And I think it's a game for people who fall sort of on the sides or in between the cracks of MMOs, action RPGs, and even specifically this boss in a box genre, which there's a number on mobile devices. Rangers of Oblivion, my favorite's Dragon Project. We're seeing more of those on mobile, a lot of fun stuff. Then of course we do have Monster Hunter, and there's always like God Eater or Toikoden. And you know, I've made list videos of monster hunting games. I can't wait for Horizon Zero Dawn 2. So, you know, looking forward to that. But anyways, so this genre itself is becoming a little bit bigger, and I think Dauntless has found a spot in it, especially as one of the very few free-to-play games, and especially as the one that dared, you know, Dauntless. It was undaunted to directly fight and compare itself to the Big Daddy Monster Hunter, which it lost. It lost that fight, like, let's not lie. But now that it's gaining some momentum, we're starting to see there is actually, even if you play that game, even if you play other MMOs, there's still actually a reason to kind of bleed your interest and time, maybe money, I don't know, and support Dauntless, because there's actually some really special stuff here. There's some fights that have really wowed me, and I think there's some friends to be made as well as memories. So that's what I gotta say, guys. I can only talk from my very personal experience, which is limited, and also I have a very biased and kind of specific interest towards certain things. Like I mentioned, specifically the rocket hammer weapon, you know, and fighting the more endgame magical style bosses. So that's it. That's all I have, friends and family. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, the very honest sort of reaction to all the news of Dauntless happening lately. And I just want to also say, look forward to new content of me streaming Monster Hunter, especially the Iceborne, launching on PC really soon here. Dauntless, probably going to be doing new expansions coming soon, I have no doubt. And I am going to be playing that and streaming that, and more similar action RPG and hack and slash games just like this. I'm very excited. Of course, I'm still trying to be more critical, even in a hype video like this, and hopefully that's okay with you. Friends and family, I don't know what to say, guys. That's it. Much love, and, you know, slogan or whatever, motto, keep the hype alive. And I'll see you again next time.